Welcome, everybody. You are watching The Jam on this very, very busy Wednesday night. I think it's still Wednesday, right? It's been such a long
happening
day.
out there in the world today? I mean, come on, slow day.
Yeah.
I'm already hot, and we're just getting started here.
We are just getting started. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amy Rutledge alongside John Hanson and Miss Felicia Lawrence. So let's get to it.
Yes, incredible news day here. A mob of Trump supporters breached the U.S. Capitol building while a joint session of Congress was certifying the 2020 presidential election results. The chaos forced the Senate to evacuate and lock down to be put in place. Protesters pushed past riot police, one person fatally shot, and at least 5 others taken to the hospital.
All right, let's rewind a little bit and get back to where this started. And it began really beforehand with some anger and frustration inside that very building coming from GOP members of Congress. Here's how it all began.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
So, over the next 10 days, we get to see the machines that are crooked, the ballots that are fraudulent, and if we're wrong, we will be made fools of. But if we're right, a lot of them will go to jail. So, let's have trial by combat.
Trial by combat. That was about a mile and a half away from the Capitol. Brandon Pope joining us now, too. That's really what started it, with this protest, this Stop the Steal rally that was taking place that the president later spoke at. It has been a really, really crazy day. I believe we also have footage from inside the Capitol as GOP senators and House members were gearing up for that Electoral College vote.
Yeah, it is one of those things where we've all been talking about all day. As you look at the pictures and video that have been coming out as these people stormed the U.S. Capitol, broke windows, got in the building, got into senators' offices, they got on the floor. At one point, you had guards dangling from the rafters. It looked like a movie. It was insane to see, because it moved very slowly, I think, in the beginning. So I think that's where everyone was like, well, why are they getting stopped? Wait, how are they breaking the windows on the the U.S. Capitol? How are they getting in the building? It was just, the way it unfolded was just absolutely insane.
It was pandemonium. It was absolute pandemonium. And let me just say, I saw some of the nicest, kindest, most respectful law enforcement that I have ever seen. I mean, these were thugs, violent criminals, terrorists that were breaking into the United States Capitol building. And it was absolutely amazing to see that they were being treated with so much respect. I don't know what's going on, but we need those police officers to certainly go around the country and help train the rest of the country in policing and law enforcement, because it's astonishing. That's all I see on my timeline right now is people of color just kind of shocked at the treatment.
Well, yeah, where's the law and order president when law and order is needed? This is what he would call thugs, right? Or a riot. You didn't see the aggression and anger from Donald Trump against this group that you did against Black Lives Matter. And it's very clear how unprepared our institutions were for this moment. And very clear they didn't take this seriously. They didn't take Trump's threat seriously. They didn't take Trumpism seriously. The man has said and given away he's not going to go away peacefully from office. And this whole force, the police, the security, just seemed like they were not ready, did not anticipate the seriousness of this and how grave this could actually be. And this is what happens. We hide behind the shield of both sidism and false equivalence. But there's no, both sides to this. It's wrong and right. And this is clearly wrong. And there's no room and no defense for this.
Yeah.
I was really actually kind of physically shaken today while watching some of the stuff in those moments where you're wondering what is happening as they rush towards the Capitol. What was happening inside the Capitol, of course, was the Electoral College protests and votes. And here's some of the GOP members that were stirring things up.
Madam Speaker and members of Congress, pursuant to the Constitution and the laws of the United States, the Senate and House of Representatives are meeting in joint session to verify the certificates and count the votes of the electors of the several states for President and Vice President of the United States.
I rise today to object to a number of states that did not follow the constitutional requirement for selecting electors.
Even if you do not share that conviction, it is the responsibility, I believe, of this office to acknowledge that is a profound threat to this country and to the legitimacy of any administrations that will come in the future.
But, my colleagues, nothing before us proves illegality anywhere near the massive scale that would have tipped the entire election. Nor can public doubt alone justify a radical break when the doubt itself was incited without any evidence. The Constitution gives us here in Congress a limited role. We cannot simply declare ourselves a national board of elections on steroids. The voters.
All right. Yeah, just shocking stuff that was happening. That was during the debate about Arizona's electoral college votes, which was supposed to be the start of perhaps 6 challenges to the electoral college votes. Now we don't know what's going to happen because all that scene, all the protesting, the taking of the Capitol, or at least getting into the Capitol, interrupted all of that. They are going to convene later tonight. We'll have more details on what they're going to be doing a little bit later on.
Yeah, and earlier today we spoke to political analyst and chairman of Kennedy King College's social science department about the implications of today's events.
You know, what he's done is he's ultimately, President Trump is responsible for this. And anyone who does not see that, I think, has their eyes closed, purposely, potentially, right? But he's responsible for this. So he has done what he thinks will, save him some bit of reputation, and to come out with a small sort of half-cocked effort to say, oh, well, let's slow down with peace, whatever. But if you saw what he did just a couple hours ago in his rally, he was ginning these folks up. And so this, I believe, ought to let America know that there are consequences to our actions. I am very, very frustrated and angry by what's going on, but this should have been stopped 4 years ago, right? 5 years ago, when he came out. If you remember in 2016, he said, they asked him the question very pointedly, will you accept the results of the election if Hillary Clinton wins? And he said very clearly, I will accept the results if I win. Well, should we be surprised by what's happening now? And I tell you all, I would be heartbroken if there are not some level of consequences for this, because if he can get away with this, someone behind him will possibly do worse. And that, I think, should be a greater fear.
Ted Williams there making a really great point. I have to say, President Trump, in my opinion, is 100% responsible for what has happened here. And I'll say everyone that has been silent and complicit in all of this unfortunate behavior over the last 4 years, and particularly today. And now you want to see specific Republicans get a backbone and say, no, this is not okay. They should have been saying this a long time ago. I mean, I think this 100% has to be squashed. I think President Trump is happy that this happened. I think that he flexed his power today. He called on MAGA. To come forward and to make a stance, and they did. They responded in full force, and this is what we got.
Yeah, I think what Ted was speaking to was how fragile this American experiment, this idea of American democracy really is, because we think that everyone's going to play by the same exact rules and, play by morals and dignity and this concept of freedom of expression and freedom of, choice and things like that. And that's not the sandbox that Donald Trump plays in. And as Ted said, I mean, somebody smarter can come in. Donald Trump isn't the sharpest toolbox out there, right? Somebody who is actually way sharper politically can see what is happening here and do it better and be more likable and be build a consensus. So that's the scary part. This is a gut check for America right now.
By the way, we're looking at live
mention,
video from Washington right now. It's about an hour and 8 minutes after the curfew started, which is in place till 6 a.m. Looks a little different than the curfews we saw in place during the protests over the summer. I'll say that much here in Chicago and across the rest of the area. Look, and here's the shame about today. One of the many shames about today is the institutions were actually kind of holding up, right? Like Pence had issued a statement that he wasn't going to go along with this and that he wasn't going to try and overthrow the election. Yes, you have 12 or 13 senators that were making objections, but the majority leader, well, soon to be minority leader, Mitch McConnell, was standing up to this. The institution was holding, and then you see what happened. This is Vice President Mike Pence's reaction, saying to stop the destruction, let everyone be peaceful. Donald Trump had a couple posts too. At one point they were on Twitter. Now they're off of it. Here it was when it was just tagged a video in which he started by talking about the steal of the election some more and then went on a rant telling people to go home. But the main message was, I won this election. How dare they do this? And Twitter, is in fact, is now taking those down.
Well, what's interesting,
John,
too, is they got so much information out of Twitter today, too. And a lot of people, and we're talking about even Republicans, too, were calling for the invocation of the 25th Amendment to pull Donald Trump out of office the last 2 weeks that he's supposed to be serving for the attempted coup, for sedition. There's a lot of things here people are wondering if he will be criminally charged with, either on the state or federal level. Now, whether or not that could happen, we'll have to ask legal experts. But it's interesting to see how a lot of people's voices have gotten louder on the Republican side against Donald Trump today.
This shocking video, by the way. This is from the gallery of the House, and there is a congresswoman, and you see a plastic bag over someone's head there. That is part of the emergency procedures.
Unbelievable.
They don't have gas masks underneath, full ones, but they have these masks that they put on in case they need to. I worked in Washington. I know I mentioned this too many times on the show, but I've been a part of these emergency training evacuations and training simulations. Never in my day would I think that you'd actually see this in the House of Representatives, what we're seeing right now.
And real Donald Trump, the Trump Twitter account has been locked for 12 hours, according to Twitter. That's a recent update there. So that's been a long time coming. Can you give us 12 days,
Twitter? Can you give us 12 days, please?
Yeah,
please.
Really? That's just not enough.
Shouldn't have taken this long. Shouldn't have taken this long.
We got much more coming up on this and many other things coming up after the break. We will be right back again. Live look from Washington, D.C., where there is a curfew in effect that several people are not listening to. We'll see you after the break.
Well, 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 today has been one shocking headline after the next, but there's always one thing that I can count on: Twitter, for those tweets to provide just a little bit of levity in these times of madness. So here's a look at my top 3 tweets from today. Check this out. Olive Garden was at the top of the trends, and believe it or not, this is related to everything that went down in DC. Now, Anderson Cooper said on CNN that protesters are going to go back to their Olive Garden and to their Holiday Inn that they're staying at. And Olive Garden stands, they're not having it. Not on their watch. They don't deserve to go to Olive Garden.
He said Marriott too, so.
Yeah.
That's
They're staying somewhere. They're eating somewhere.
They're staying somewhere.
Lipsticks are good though.
They don't deserve anywhere. Okay, moving on. Next, I'm gonna have to take you back to 2017 for this one. Do you guys remember that Kendall Jenner Pepsi ad where she basically said that Pepsi will cure all violence? Well, people on Twitter today were wondering, where is Kendall Jenner when you need her? She could have saved us all.
Yeah, I don't know.
She just needed to pull up with some Pepsi.
Yeah, I think the officers were calm. Maybe she was there giving out Pepsis, and that's why they weren't doing anything, Felicia. I don't know.
Hey, those officers were just as calm as she was. They said only 13 people have been arrested so far. That was as like an hour ago. So, hey, maybe that's the cure.
Yeah.
More Kardashians.
Yeah, right. Ugh, I don't know. All right, and finally, here's a live look at everyone that had to go on with their work day, who had phone calls and meetings and nothing was going on.
What a good boy.
Oh, it's sad, but it's funny.
I had a group chat with like 6 of my girlfriends, and they are all, well, half of them are lawyers. And I'm like, aren't you guys supposed to be working right now? And they're all, nobody's working.
We were in that 2 o'clock meeting. We were in the 2 o'clock meeting together, and I had like my earbuds in and like watching the TV. Was it obvious I wasn't paying too much attention at the meeting? I know our boss a couple times is like,
we weren't paying attention. We weren't paying attention, John. We don't know. We were. Everyone was glued to their TV and their phones.
Yeah, but wait, I gotta say, to this tweet, my roommate and I were both working on our first floor, and he's like, "Can I mute the TV really quick? I gotta take this call." And he took it on speaker, and they went on as if nothing was going on in the world, and I was just like, "Really?"
Yeah, crazy.
Like, I gotta go watch this on Twitter somewhere else. Bye.
Yeah. Brandon is never paying attention to meetings, so today was nothing new for him.
Oh. I have laser focus. So much focus, I can focus on like 5 different things at the same time, okay? NBA Finals, Zoom meeting, CNN. Exactly. Hey, guys, coming up, we're going to talk more about this wild day. Joe Biden, the president-elect, he had a lot to say about this. We'll have more on that when we come back.
Live look right now. That is the east side of the U.S. Capitol right now. The curfew in Washington, D.C. in effect as of right now, about an hour and 20 minutes ago, until 6 a.m. We'll continue to monitor this throughout the night. Joe Biden just 2 weeks away from being inaugurated as the president, and he minced no words about what happened with the protests and the mob attacks today, and the President Trump's failure to call off his supporters.
But today's reminder, a painful one, that democracy is fragile, and to preserve it requires people of goodwill, leaders of the courage to stand up, who are devoted not to the pursuit of power, but or the personal interest pursuits of their own selfish interest at any cost.
Oh, that actually made my heart rate go down, which was really great to hear from a president after a few hours of what was going on.
Yeah, this is something that President Trump has long since been missing in his presidency, the ability to sound presidential. Joe Biden, the president-elect, obviously very good at that, and he's had 44 years in politics behind him. But this is what you need as a leader to kind of give you a sense that the world will be okay and we're moving forward. And we don't ever seem to get that from the president with 2 weeks left.
Yeah, I mean, and he called on Trump. Biden called on Trump to address the people on television. You have to remember the digital divide, and not everybody is on the phone or getting their information from their hand. You know, there are a lot of people who are relying on television. This was a time to hear from our president. Now, he put out that video on social media that has since been taken down. That's because he said, you know, go home. Thank you. We appreciate you. We love you, to the people storming the Capitol building. Not presidential at all, not responsible at all. And Twitter said, we are not risking any of this blood on our hands. They muted him completely. They locked his account completely. So somebody has to be responsible. They said it's not us.
Well, President-elect Joe Biden, when he takes office, has a major challenge on his hand, one that a president hasn't seen since maybe the age of Lincoln, healing a divided nation. And John Hanson challenged me. He said, I haven't made a football reference yet during the show. Remember the film, Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington? The team was on a hot streak, doing great, but then they let their differences and the tiny things about them and women and things like that divide them, right? So it took a strong head coach to bring the team together and tell the greatest comeback story ever told. America has an opportunity now. Joe Biden's got to be the coach, and he's got to be the quarterback, offensive coordinator, all of that stuff. It's not an easy job, but he sounds right now like he's ready to take this on.
Yeah, and go ahead, Felicia.
As we talk about moving forward in over the next couple of weeks, we know the inauguration is certainly on the horizon. Biden left that press conference, and of course, one reporter lodging a question at him, and he came back to the podium and said that he is not concerned about the inauguration. I think that was certainly the right move to take and the right message to send to the people. I'm glad that he's not. I am personally,
but
I
Felicia,
think that's good that he's trying to secure the people.
You ain't wrong. Look at what we're looking at here. And I think I said the east end earlier. This is actually the west end of the Capitol as it points towards the National Mall. We had a wider shot just a moment ago. I mean, we're talking about tens of thousands of people that are there as they zoom on out. And you can see some movement happening here. This is the country that Joe Biden is going to inherit. And he has throughout the entire campaign and steadfast since his election that he's going to bring Republicans and Democrats together. This is America, right? And this ain't going away just because he wants it to. He's got a real tough job, but I felt like he struck the appropriate tone today.
And let's not forget, as we talk about all the day's happenings and we look at all this live coverage from Washington, D.C., there are a lot of people there not wearing masks because we are in the middle of a pandemic. What does that do to the situation we are already in, where we are at the height of infections and fatalities from this coronavirus? People keep forgetting that they could die from this. And that is a lot of the things that were caused by words from President Donald Trump, too. And he's got to fix that as well.
Yeah, which the president hasn't paid any attention to that in recent weeks. All he's been talking about is the election.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. All right, well, we'll keep on monitoring this. We'll be right back. This is like Union Square, if anyone knows DC, not that it matters. I don't know about any of you all as we take a look at a live picture of DC right now, but this latest episode of The Fall of the Republic on Netflix original is really gripping. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, I mean,
This
it
has been
literally feels
something.
like something right out of the movies. That's what we've been talking amongst our team in our meetings, is that this looks like, we think of White House Down and Olympus Has
Yeah.
Fallen.
Well,
We're
and
thinking
what's
about
so
all these
sad
movies.
What's so sad about that is a lot of people sitting at home, that's the image that they're getting. It's like a movie, but this is real life. This is happening to real people. A woman is dead from this earlier today, and several people were injured, and that's what people are forgetting. I mean, watching all this stuff come down today was reminiscent a little of 9/11 and the struggles and the strife and all the stuff coming out at once. And it's exhausting, and it's very real, and our country is broken, and it needs to be fixed.
Yeah, what's also sad is that this is a day that Donald Trump is celebrating. In a tweet that's now deleted, he said this was a glorious day, and this is a day that's going to, live in history. Yeah, it will live in history, but for the wrong reasons, not the reasons he thinks. Just a really dark day for America, and sad to see here.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it very well there, Brandon. Probably the most scared I've been for our country since 9/11. Again, a live look at the west end of the Capitol. We'll be right back after this.
Well, welcome back, everybody. It is 6:30 here on a crazy Wednesday evening, Wednesday midday, Wednesday late morning, however you want to put it. We have had a lot going on today. Yeah,
No idea.
that's right.
No idea.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Amy Rutledge, John Hanson, and Felicia Lawrence here. So let's get right to the day's events. We'll kind of do a recap here. After hours of chaos, the U.S. Capitol is secure once again. Supporters of the president took over one of the most iconic buildings in our republic, while Congress was trying to count the vote to confirm Joe Biden's presidency. Emboldened by the lies and mistruths from the Trump administration, several hundred stormed inside, pulling down the American flag. replacing it with the Confederate one. Some made their way onto the House floor, one protester even taking over the House Speaker's seat. The president tweeting around 5 p.m. Chicago time before his account was frozen. These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home with love and in peace. Remember this day forever. So, for the first time ever, as I mentioned, Twitter has hidden 3 of Trump's tweets, blocked his account, including the one we just showed you, and a video he posted earlier today. It will be locked for 12 hours after he removes the tweets. George W. Bush issued a statement as well today saying, quote, in part, I'm appalled by the reckless behavior of some political leaders since the election and by the lack of respect showed today for our institutions, our traditions, and our law enforcement. To those who are disappointed in the results of the election, our country is more important than the politics of the moment. Let the officials elected by the people fulfill their duties and represent our voices in peace and safety.
Yeah, lots of new reports coming in. Just hearing this, guys, that Melania Trump's chief of staff has submitted her resignation in the wake of the protests. I know there's been talk of that with other House Republicans, too, of staff resigning, or senators as well, for their efforts, if they're still going to continue to go on with what is to be a protest. But on that, there's still business at hand, because they're not going to stop this vote. They are going to continue, and I think that's a great show of strength from both Republicans and Democrats that they're going right back at it. So the Congress is going to continue this electoral college vote count. So again, we were only on Arizona. Boy, we only made Alabama, Alaska, Arizona. We got a long way to go. It's A to Z, baby. And that was where the protest, and that was where the objection happened to Arizona's 11 electoral votes. Now, the interesting thing is, will they still object to the other states? It's not a good look, to say the least. It wasn't before all this, but a lot of people wondering if what has been a disastrous 24 hours for the GOP will be made even worse if they continue after the scenes that we see here. People on scaffolding working their way anyway into the Capitol. It's crazy. It's crazy. And let's not lose sight of the fact. Yeah, let's not lose sight of the fact that someone obviously died after this too. Senate Majority Mitch McConnell, the latest we've heard, has not spoken to the president. Not a huge shock there. But again, they're trying to get, a lot of people are trying to get the GOP. A lot of GOP people are trying to get Senator Hawley out of Missouri, Senator Ted Cruz out of Texas, other senators that have risen objections to just stop. Let this thing go through. Take your one vote on Arizona. They take a vote for each state that's objected to and move on. And I think that is one way, as we continue to take a live look at DC. This is live now. That one way that the GOP can try and survive this.
And this is a time, out of any time, to put the country over any party, any divisiveness, anything, to put this democratic process that we hold so dearly to us, that we need to put that above everything else that is going on. I think that it should not be undermined or belittled, the fact of like the location of where this happened. Of course, it would be horrible anywhere. But the fact that this happened at the U.S. Capitol building, didn't happen at someone's, at Biden's house, or, you know, at some other building, or the whatever. It happened at the United States Capitol building, something that is 100% supposed to represent our laws, our country, what we stand for, the Constitution. It's I'm just watching the video and I'm left speechless.
It's a loss for words.
I mean, my goodness.
Well, what has me sort of shocked but not surprised is the response that we're seeing. This you could call it a backlash, more of a white lash. You're seeing this white extremism come to the forefront, and history with America has shown white extremism is not often paid attention to until it's too late, until it starts to eat away at itself and turn on those who usually are the institutions that usually uphold white supremacy. And that's what we're seeing here today. It's going to be interesting to see how senators, respond to the events today, like Ted Cruz, who is currently fundraising off of the speech he gave while all this is going on. So will there be any change of heart from anyone there? I doubt it, but it will be interesting to see going forward for sure.
Well, as we talk about the electoral college votes being certified this evening as they go back to it, it's important to note that earlier today when all this happened, a staffer actually managed to gather up all the electoral votes and pull them off the floor before these protesters, rioters, mobsters, whatever you want to call them, stormed the floor, because who knows, those could have been burned and lost. And that might have been on their agenda to do just as they keep trying to fight this election. So thankfully, whoever that staffer is managed to get them to a safe place so they can continue their work this evening.
By the way,
that was an amazing photo.
You want to hear a good example of tone deaf, by the way? Tiffany Trump just tweeted, "Happy birthday, Eric Trump. I love you, and I'm so grateful to have you by my side." Read the country, Tiffany. We don't need, happy birthday, sure, but take a pulse for a second. No one wants to hear that tonight.
But it's just,
for sure.
It's so disrespectful. I mean, I know that she's not the elected official, but for her to be just a family member, I mean, not that I expect it anymore. It's not like we've seen any different the last 4 years, but I mean, it's just, it's tasteless. It is disrespectful. It is inconsiderate. It's a slap in the face.
Stupid. What else we got, Brandon?
Well, one thing I found interesting during all of this, though, is some of these senators and congressmen, they found some time to still look good while dealing with all this chaos. Okay, Representative Stacey Plaskett made sure to post this selfie, and they all striking a pose there in a safe location. We're good. I know this is insurrection and terrorism, right? Look at the faces. Look at the pose. The hands. They came ready. Good. Somebody commented, "Black people always ready for a photo." That's what happened. She put up the phone and said, "Hey, let's do this," and they're like, "Hey, let's go." Chaos. Civil War.
I mean, could you imagine? First of all, that's one of the most American things that I've probably seen today. But could you imagine being underneath the desk, hunkered down, and you're like, what in the world is going on? Like, what do you talk about then? Like, what are your conversations as you're hunkered down, protecting, in the tornado drill position, trying to protect yourself?
If you're going through that, you might as well get some internet points for it. That's what I say. Get them wherever you can get them.
Hey, when you zoom in on those faces,
from street cred,
it tells a story. It tells a story indeed.
They always have those T-shirts that says "I survived," Miami, or "I survived," whatever the scenario is. Pandemonium.
I survived the 2021 coup. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, I can't judge them. I'd probably do the same exact thing. If I'm dressed nice, I already got the suit out. I might as well. You already know I would do it. There's no doubt about it.
Well,
hey,
you love a selfie. We get it.
I do, because, you got to show off the beard on a good beard day, all that. But amid all this stuff that was going on, y'all, we still had a Georgia runoff election to worry about, okay? That was all going down. Democratic candidates Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock are both projected as winners against their GOP challengers, giving Democrats a majority in the Senate. It's the first time since 2011 that's happened. Now, Warnock is the first black senator out of the state. Ossoff is the first Jewish senator from Georgia, and now the youngest member of the Senate at 33 years old. And, seeing the Dems take control of the House, the Senate, and take the White House, a clear repudiation of Trumpism here. And so the GOP's got to soul search and figure out what they're going to do going forward. And for the Democrats, you have to make sure with this majority, you're responsible with it. Because you have a lot of power here. You don't want to go too far to the extreme, because what happens when you go extreme, there becomes some pushback. And that means you're going to lose seats in the next 2 years. Exactly.
Well, and let's just remember that the election results are a bigger picture of what's going on in America. What happened at the U.S. Capitol today is a microcosm of a couple hundred people who are angry and follow Trump's coattails and believe everything he says. The rest of the nation, frankly, is pissed, and they're over it, and they want him out of the White House. And Georgia shows that more than anything.
Yeah, and Georgia, where you saw high turnouts, was in blue counties, low turnout in red counties. The GOP thought for a while that Trump was invincible. Well, then he got pretty well beat in the general election, and when he's not on the ballot, it's no good. And this is a redefining moment for the GOP if they want to take it. The day after, we always are a little careful. We don't want to say that the Democrats forever, they're going to take every race from now on, because there's going to be some pushback, of course. But this could be If this 30 hours, losing Georgia, losing the Senate, and the nonsense you see today doesn't push the GOP away from President Trump, I do not know what will, and they are in trouble.
And you guys, I also
Go ahead, Felicia.
don't want to not make. I want to highlight. There we go. I want to highlight, and you touched on it, Brandon, that Warnock being the first Black senator of the state. This is huge. This is a proud moment as we continue to celebrate diversity. Kamala Harris being a HBCU grad, Stacey Abrams also being an HBCU grad, and so this is a moment to celebrate as well. What has happened today, of course, that's the underlying story with all the craziness in DC. But Georgia spoke up. They made a statement. And if any Republican is unhappy on that other side, I think President Trump is the one to blame. Republicans should look to President Trump for being the reason that Georgia is blue.
Black voters delivered this. Black voters, Black organizers, Stacey Abrams, Black fraternities and sororities, Black colleges and universities. That's what flipped Georgia. Those metropolitan areas, they all galvanized. The rappers came out. Lil Boosie came out. Like, this was a massive coalition that came together for Georgia. And now you got to look at Texas and look at other states that they keep pushing more and more toward maybe going blue. Could the same thing happen in other states?
Lil Boosie, I thought you were going to have a little update for us, Brandon. I guess not tonight. That's not the right night for that. We'll be back.
Well, if you want a little update, hey, we can get that later, I guess.
Storm the Capitol, to smash windows, to occupy offices, the floor of the United States Senate, rummaging through desks, on the Capitol, on the House of Representatives, threatening the safety of duly elected officials. It's not protest, it's insurrection. What we're seeing are a small number of extremists dedicated to lawlessness. This is not dissent. It's disorder. It's chaos. It borders on sedition. And it must end now.
And that's our president-elect there, unequivocally and flat out denouncing all the chaos that happened this afternoon. And this stunt on Capitol Hill could have wider-ranging effects on the Republican Party, especially after the Georgia runoff. Here's political expert Ted Williams again.
We always, at the end of an election, sort of, have a funeral about the other party, right? And the other party, they've lost everything. And so I don't want to jump to conclusions too quickly in that way, but we know that Georgia did not go blue, hadn't gone blue since 92, right? And so we know that there's a shift. There's a demographic shift that's happening. And I think the Republicans ought to pay attention. But here's what I think is also equally tragic on this day. We've had historic gains in the Senate. Raphael Warnock is a historic candidate. Ossoff is a historic candidate based on his age and his Jewish background, that sort of thing. But it happened on the same day that the police in Kenosha, Wisconsin, had no charges for the shooting of Jacob Blake. And so we really see there's an irony here, right? There's a dichotomy that is occurring in this country. In one way, there's progress. In another way, there's not. Oftentimes, the old phrase, you take 2 steps forward and 3 steps backwards. I feel like maybe that's where we are right now. But I'm really hopeful that the cooler heads will prevail. The more mature folks in the Republican Party will stop this and say, we cannot go forward because we may never win another election if we continue to placate this radical wing of the Republican Party.
Yeah, Ted Williams saying it amazingly right there. I mean, right is right and wrong is wrong. And we also asked him, because a lot of people are talking about right now, will there be like this whole, will the Republican Party split? Will there be a whole new sect of voters? Will Trump voters continue to grow and grow? Will it be another political party? I'm curious to know what you guys think too. Do you think that we could see this, that we'll continue to see this division?
I think for certain it's going to take at least one term in office for Joe Biden to turn things around, and not even turn it around, but maybe heal some of the deep divide, politically at least, that has happened in this country over the last 4 years, because the American public has been lied to by our president, and a lot of people took every word that he said as truth. Now you have to teach them that it wasn't truth, that the president was lying to you, but believe me. So how do you bridge that gap and fix that wound that was opened and go forward? So they have to do it slowly, methodically, but make sure that people understand there are good people in government that are trying to do good things.
Trump obviously is a huge part of this problem, has been for 4 years, really fanned the flames of this. But this goes back a while. This goes back about 10 or 15 years with the rise of the Tea Party following the election of Barack Obama. And Democrats are not blameless here. I will say that. I mean, the temperature has risen. Look, and I feel when I was there, look, you would watch congressmen, and they still do, congressmen and women, grab beers, pre-pandemic, together. They would rail each other on television in front of all of their followers. And at rallies, they would get all of us into a fervor, and then they are civil together. They have beers together. They go out to dinner. They are social. And that is what has happened. We have had the boiling over. Today was, we filled the pot with hot water. That was 2008. You got the Tea Party. They lit the pot, the stovetop. You got President Trump covering the pot and making sure that the water boils. And today was it boiling over. But there's a lot of steps to get to that point, and we now have to work backwards. And the first thing is turn down the temperature, both sides of the aisle.
Yes.
Well, John, you hit on this really well. The GOP as a party has embraced white extremism since Reagan, and it's just been growing over time. And we saw the rise of the Tea Party. So the big question is, where do those Trump voters go? I don't think they leave. I think you still have people like Ted Cruz who are going to galvanize off of that Trump base because they're still there and they're still angry, and they tap into this dark side of America that feeds into this toughness and hatred of cultural sensitivity, and it pays a price. And we're seeing it really swell up the country right now, but it's not going to be enough, I think, to stop this party, because the truth is, white America is it's wound up, and this extremism has existed for centuries. It's not going to stop.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well, we continue to watch the live picture out of Washington. Obviously, still a large police presence and still a large number of protesters on the Capitol grounds, way past the curfew. We're going to have more coming up after this break.
All right, guys, the Mega Millions lottery jackpot just climbed to nearly $500 million. So nobody won the jackpot in Tuesday's drawing, so it pushed the prize from $447 million to an estimated $490 million dollar bills, y'all. So after a day like today, if you won the Mega Millions jackpot, and might I add, just grab the app. It's very easy to get tickets. You can do it right on your phone. Amy, what would you do with all that money?
I would start buying real estate in all of my favorite places. And I don't mean in the U.S. I mean, internationally. So that I had, a place in Mexico. I have a place in Italy. I got a place, in France somewhere. I want places everywhere.
Can't blame you.
And you'll take us with you?
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Okay, and I am going to put all my houses right next to Amy's and all these other places so we can be neighbors and we can watch each other's kids and just have a good old time. Yeah, no, I'm with you on the travel part, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah, property is smart, but I definitely am catching a flight or a few flights, okay? Because I need a break. All right. America is raggedy right now. I need a chance to just kind of cleanse myself of it, get some Cuban cigars, get some nice, exquisite wine from Italy and just kick back,
Wait,
I
we
like
heard
that
that,
idea.
Amy. Oh, there we go. Yeah,
Whoa,
that's a
whoa.
There you go.
You know what?
It's
Dry
probably
January died today. Dry January died today. We're going to call it slightly wet January and maybe, a little drier February.
Wow.
January.
I thought Amy had a Mike's Hard lemonade.
That's a Guinness. That's a real beer. That's a real beer. Woo.
The only beer I'll drink, I don't like beer that much, so Guinness. It's got a lot of potassium in it. It's good for your legs when you're running, Brandon.
We're gonna go get one during the commercial break. By the way, I would buy Cubs season tickets and a lake house, and I would just alternate between those two places. Drive to Wrigley. Not drive. I would have someone drive me between my lake house and Wrigley Field.
Yes, and land on Wrigley Field to drop you off.
I would say that, but you actually can't do that on game days, Felicia. There's a restriction around the ballpark, so you can't.
Boy, I thought people got more fun when they drank. Amy got more.
Not when you're a billionaire, Amy. You can bend the rules when you're a billionaire.
Krista, what do you get?
Never had money before, so.
I'd buy a boat and the entire Amalfi Coast. Can you do that? You can.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's follow Amy's lead, shall we?
Yeah. We'll be right back. Go crack open your drinks. We'll drink them in the next block. We'll be right back.
I'm going to go ahead and do some of this.
This isn't water.
Krista Green, you have not lived, girl. Have you done a keg stand?
I haven't lived. No, I haven't done a keg stand.
Oh no, Krista has lived.
Not keg stands though.
Well, we deserve it after today. I will say that. Cheers to getting through it, folks. Absolutely. I got my Bears glass. Oh, who needs it? You better believe it.
Who needs it?
There you go.
Cheers.
Amy's going. Look at her go.
Oh, Amy!
She's really doing this too. Did she do it?
Did you finish it?
Wow.
I went to Southern. I am a Saluki. This is what I learned in college.
Okay, Shanton. Okay.
She's so proud.
Whoa.
Look at John.
I don't think I can shotgun this. This is not possible for me. Yeah.
Don't do it.
No.
The alcohol
Probably not a
content
good
is
idea.
different. It's
Boy, I
dangerous.
hope HR doesn't watch this late in the show. That's what I'll tell you about that.
Mine was like dinner, so it's
But how about those fans? Look, we got a couple days left till the Bears are in the playoffs. We got things to look forward to, right? It was a cruddy day, but we're gonna hold each other's hands and we're gonna get through it. In fact, let's do it right now. Come on, everyone.
Okay.
January
in.
21st. January 21st.
How does that work?
I
We'll see you
love
tomorrow.
these moments.
It looks